Your Excellency the Governor, Mr. John Rankin, CMG, Premier and Minister of Finance, Dr. the Honorable Natalia D. Wheatley, Deputy Premier and Minister for Communications and Works, Honorable Kai Reimer, Cabinet Secretary, Ms. Sandra Ward, other senior public officers and heads of statutory bodies present, our specially invited guest, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Jones, Executive Director of the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security. Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all wake up yet? Today is another auspicious day in the Virgin Islands. This day has been long in coming, but we are grateful to God that it is now here. I'm Carolyn Stout-Igwe, Permanent Secretary in the Premier's Office, and I am delighted to welcome you to this brief ceremony as we witness the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between CARICOM IMPACS and the Government of the Virgin Islands. What is this MOU about? Why are we even signing it? What is its significance to the territory of the Virgin Islands? Please join me in welcoming the Premier of the Virgin Islands, Dr. the Honorable Natalia D. Wheatley, to the lectern to provide answers to those questions for you. Premier?
Good morning, all. Thank you, Madam Chair. Your Excellency, Governor John J. Rankin, CMG, Deputy Premier, Honorable Kai M. Reimer, senior public officers, our special guest, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Jones, members of the media. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. Let me join in welcoming you to this brief ceremony, which marks another significant milestone for this Government of National Unity as we continue to implement various measures to enhance the Virgin Islands' border security. I wish to begin by saying the Virgin Islands is very proud and happy to be a member of the CARICOM family. Notwithstanding our status as associate members, our brother and sister nations in the Caribbean community have always stood with us in our challenges and have always made us feel loved, welcomed, and valued. And this is why I'm happy that the Virgin Islands is formally joining, in the way we are today, the regional effort for security and border protection through the signing of this Memorandum of Understanding for the exchange of advanced passenger information between the Government of the Virgin Islands and the Caribbean Community Implementation Agency for Crime and Security, or IMPACS. Through the API system, the competent authority and participating states are required to ensure that the particulars of all flights and voyages, as well as that of all persons on board, are collected and transmitted to IMPACS within specified timeframes ahead of the departure of the flight or voyage. This will allow for the screening of the aircraft or vessel, crew and passengers against regional and international databases and watch lists. This presents a number of benefits to the participating countries. For instance, with respect to the Virgin Islands, benefits will include integrated border management. The API system will serve the interests of a number of border security agencies in the Virgin Islands, as it will allow agencies in-depth information to facilitate concise decision-making. Seamless border control. The API system will allow for risk-based, data-driven immigration processing, allowing low-risk passengers to be processed quickly, which will improve overall passenger experience by reducing congestion and delays at the ports of entry. Improved border security. The API system, in conjunction with the CARIBSEC's watch lists, affords local law enforcement the ability to identify and manage high-risk passengers before they arrive in the Virgin Islands. Persons can be denied boarding from their original departure point, and local law enforcement can be organized to monitor persons of interest long before they arrive in the Virgin Islands. D, international cooperation. Requesting and receiving standardized API data will facilitate international data sharing and analysis on cross-border movements. Watch list screening. By the transmission of standardized data, Other participating agencies will be able to match against international watch lists, including Interpol, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and CARICOM databases. This makes it difficult for fugitives and other dangerous persons to travel. Travel history and analysis, API data, will also be able to facilitate the management of exit, entry, and transit history, once utilized in conjunction with our updated border management system. Cost benefits. Signing on to the CARICOM API system yields tremendous cost savings to participating countries as opposed to them trying to implement a standalone API system, which would be a costly and time-consuming venture akin to reinventing the wheel. Members and associate members of CARICOM are able to benefit from an existing system that is already tested and implemented in other CARICOM countries. Over the past few decades, the global travel industry has been challenged to balance safety with traveler comfort and convenience. On one hand, and especially for the tourism-dependent countries such as the Virgin Islands, we are cognizant that the ports of entry is the point of first contact, and first impressions are very important. So we want our visitors to be able to move quickly and effortlessly through the border controls, immigration and customs, and have a pleasant experience. But on the other hand, we are also aware of the threats posed by transnational crime, such as terrorism and human trafficking. We appreciate the importance of ensuring that criminals are not able to slip in and out of jurisdictions to evade the law. Those kinds of persons pose threats to others, to communities, and to economies, and therefore vigilance is critical. The API system helps us to achieve this balance. It allows some of the screening that must be done on arriving travelers to be completed before they arrive on our doorsteps, and this will allow for faster processing. Additionally, we can have a greater level of comfort because we know that the persons we are admitting into the territory have been screened against international databases by the API system. We also feel good knowing that we are passing forward the same benefits to countries that receive travelers from the Virgin Islands when we transmit API to the system. May I also point out, CARICOM's API system is strongly supported by the United States Department of Homeland Security's Border Protection Agency and the United Kingdom Border Force. Lest we forget, the Virgin Islands is home to hundreds of persons from throughout the region who live and work in the Virgin Islands and who are part of our community. Further, we are very much interested in working with our CARICOM colleagues to promote increased trade and increased business within the region. Our recent experiences through the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict have re-emphasized the importance and the potential for Caribbean countries to consolidate our strengths and resources to assure our people of food security and to spur economic activity that will stimulate the economies in the region and help them to grow, among other aims. This frames a broader view of the importance to promote regional safety, more robust border protection, and seamless travel for our people. We have confidence in IMPACS API system based on its track record. Its successes, I am advised, include the identification of registered sex offenders from another jurisdiction, resulting in the disruption of a child prostitution ring. Congratulations to CARICOM and IMPACS on these achievements. This is the kind of robust screening and effectiveness that we strive for in border protection. The MOU that we are signing today and the Virgin Islands joining the CARICOM API system is the result of training and awareness programs conducted by IMPACS, Joint Regional Communication Center, more specifically the APIS CARIBSEC program in 2017, which was held in Barbados. On behalf of the government and people of the Virgin Islands, I want to thank CARICOM, IMPACS, and the JRCC for including us in the training and development initiatives and for supporting us in joining on to the API system. We in the Virgin Islands are committed to the security of the region and beyond. We look forward to building stronger relationships and greater collaboration on areas of mutual interest and concern. And we pray for the safety and prosperity of the Caribbean community. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier, for your remarks. As promised, you now know what the MOU is about, why we are signing it, its significance to the territory, and even more. Let me acknowledge the presence of Attorney General, Honorable Dawn Smith, and Acting Permanent Secretary in the Premier's Office, Mrs. Elvia Smith-Maduro. As you have heard, the signing of this MOU will pave the way for improved border security for the territory. National Security Council, NSC, according to the Virgin Islands Constitution Order 2007, is responsible for advising the governor on matters relating to internal security. Since every moment is a teachable moment, let me just say here that the chairman of the NSC is the governor, and the members are the Premier, Deputy Premier, Attorney General, and the ex officio members are the Attorney General and the Commissioner of Police. The Cabinet Secretary serves as a secretary to the NSC. Commissioner of Police is represented today by Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Sinclair Amory. Today we salute the members of the NSC for their role in this territory and for being here this morning. I now invite the Chairman of the National Security Council, His Excellency the Governor, to bring remarks. Governor?
Thank you, Permanent Secretary, and good morning. Good morning, Premier, Deputy Premier, Attorney General, senior public servants, and a particular good morning and welcome to Lieutenant Colonel Mike Jones. I had the opportunity to speak to Lieutenant Colonel just briefly before coming to this meeting, and I know something of the experience he has in working on tackling crime and dealing with security issues within the Caribbean region and within CARICOM, and your presence here is most welcome indeed. And I'm very pleased to be here at this MOU signing because, as the Premier has made clear in his remarks, no country, no territory is free from the threats of organised crime and transnational crime. This is as true here in the BVI as it is in the wider Caribbean and in the wider world. And this MOU, agreed by the National Security Council, will help to tackle those threats through improved sharing of information and intelligence. And in particular, as you've heard, the provision of advanced passenger information data will be valuable for our immigration department in controlling the movement of people through our borders, working closely with the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force to ensure our border security. Sadly, crime groups become ever more sophisticated, operating on a global basis across borders in the movement of drugs, guns, in terrorist financing, and in human trafficking. So as those groups become more sophisticated, this MOU is part of that response here in the BVI, with better information helping us to better intercept criminals trying to enter the BVI. This is important for the BVI, it's important for our CARICOM colleagues, and it's important internationally. And as the Premier stated, this agreement has the support of UK Border Force and our US colleagues who are similarly impacted by what can happen here in this territory in terms of the threats to those countries. That is one reason why the approvals for this MOU were given by the UK Minister and myself back in May 2021, given my responsibilities for external affairs and security under Section 60 of the Constitution, and I'm pleased that it has now come to fruition. I wish colleagues in the Immigration Department well in its implementation, and I thank CARICOM for its support in this matter, and in particular, for those who may be listening to this, I welcome the fact that this sharing of advanced passenger information should actually make it easier for most passengers to cross our borders by reducing congestion and delays, by getting that prior information in place rather than having to act at the last moment when someone who may have a criminal record, who may be on a watch list, suddenly lands at our borders here in the BVI. For my part, Premier, Deputy Premier, members of the National Security Council, I pledge my continued commitment to supporting the protection of BVI's borders, including through the work of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, for whom I have responsibility, in particular our investment in the Police Marine Unit, who together with HMS Medway continue to patrol our waters to intercept drugs and human traffickers in our seas. I look forward to this further cooperation with CARICOM, this further sharing of information and further support for making the BVI a safer place for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We are indeed grateful to have other key stakeholders here this morning. Under the Premier's office, our lead border agency is the Immigration Department, and under the Minister of Finance, the lead border agency is the Customs Department. The lead agency for security matters under the Governor is the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, and at the Governor's office, the head is Miss Vicky Francis. Thanks for the role you played in getting us to this day, Vicky. The Immigration Department is represented here this morning by our Chief Immigration Officer, Mr. Ian Penn, Deputy Chief Immigration Officer, Mrs. Nadia Demin-Hodge, and Senior Immigration Officer, Mr. Ralston Williams. Customs Department is represented by Acting Commissioner, Mr. Leslie Letsom, and Acting Deputy Commissioner, Mr. Greg Romney. In order for an advanced passenger information system to work, our passengers have to enter the territory and depart from our ports of entry. Today, we are pleased to have the Managing Director of the BVI Airport Authority, Mr. Kurt Manel, and the Acting Managing Director of the BVI Ports Authority, Mr. Dean Foy, also present with us today. Over the coming months, we will be engaging both of you as we seek to launch a public education campaign on the changes that will be expected from the public as they plan their travels. No longer can we expect to be rolling up at the port of entry 5 minutes before the boat is ready to depart. So we're giving them a break for the Christmas season. Don't want to ruffle any feathers right now, but come January morning, we are on our campaign. We thank all of you for coming and joining us this morning. Now, when you have a home, it is always nice to welcome guests to your home. And as a territory, we also take pleasure in welcoming guests to our shores. I am pleased this morning to have the opportunity to welcome our special guest, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Jones, the Executive Director for CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security. He has made it past the airport tarmac today. So we welcome you to your first trip, really, to the British Virgin Islands, and we hope that you will have a great time. In the short time that you have here, we will try to make sure that it's worth your time. So, Mr. Jones, we invite you at this time to come and give your remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Your Excellency, Governor John J. Rankin, Honorable Premier, other honorable members of Cabinet, senior officials of government, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Mike Jones, and first I want to start by thanking you very much for the warm greetings that I received. I've landed many times on the tarmac, particularly during COVID, doing missions with the RSS. But yes, this is my first official visit to Tortola, and I feel like a rock star. I got on to the plane in Antigua to come here and sat at the back, and everybody else got off before me. I was one of the last to get off, and nobody proceeded until this flashcard with Colonel Jones on it. Everyone was looking to see who the short bald-head guy was, and so on. But seriously, thank you very much, Premier, for all the facilitations that were made to accommodate my visit here. Everything went very well. I also want to thank, in particular, Mr. Williams, who endured and persisted with us over the years. Yes, it's been a while. This has been long in coming, but nothing before its time. I was even remarking to the governor, we signed an MOU with the UK Home Office back in 2018, March. And that actually started with informal working relationships with a colleague that we had from the NCA back in 2011. But life happens. The UK was hosting the Olympics in 2012, so that took lead. By the time that that was over and the after actions report concluded, people were promoted, some retired, so we started all over again. But the point is we have gotten there, and that has gone from strength to strength, even to the point where we've signed an enhanced agreement with them most recently for the sharing of criminal records, case by case as time goes on. Transnational organized crime. Again, briefly in the discussion, as the governor mentioned before coming in here, we were talking about an example a situation we were able to unfold by working together. We are stronger together. So it doesn't matter if you're a full member or associate member, the challenges that we all face are the same. I'm more certain you have an issue with firearms, as do all of us. The trafficking in persons or certainly irregular migration movements, we cannot discount the fallout that is happening in Haiti at the moment, quite next door. It may not be impacting you significantly or as much as some of your other brothers and sisters in the region, but certainly the issues are all the same. And remarked of a situation where, to demonstrate the organization of it, we had a situation where a particular nationality was being smuggled out of one country. The facilitation in the travel agency that was doing it is another. The person that owns that travel agency is in a third jurisdiction. And the point I'm getting at is that were we to address this issue on a singular or siloed basis, we would not have been able to see the connectedness of it across the region. And so certainly with the BVI joining, certainly enhances or strengthens the network that we're on. And don't mind that we're a CARICOM entity, so to speak. There are others. So even prior to you, sir, the Curacao, who is not a member or associate member, they're also part of the network too as well. And certainly speaking with the governor and our colleague, Mr. Church, we're looking to get the other two associate members that are not on as yet, which would be Anguilla and Bermuda. And certainly, like I said, the more that we can share together, the more that we can enhance or strengthen our own respective borders. Because again, too, and I'm glad that you have customs and others here. So whereas you're primarily talking about passengers and to a lesser extent the crew as well, there's a triangulation of the systems that are available. So the same thing that we are doing with passengers, we are also doing with cargo. And we do know, for example, certainly in shipping, some of the same weapons that we've discovered, particularly in the barrels around the Christmas period, that you can see them travel, send stuff ahead of them, and then return home and so on. So between that, the advanced cargo, and even looking at the maritime domain awareness platform to see those vessels that may be in your waters, whether it is illegal, unreported, or unregulated fishing that may be occurring in the waters. I understand that this may be a challenge too as well. Again, we can triangulate those systems to ensure or certainly have a better awareness and preempt some of these things that are be facing us. And one last thing, again, to assist, filling out the paper-based ED form that we did. We've already replaced that in Barbados and doing so for the OECS as well. And certainly it's free and available to you if you so desire. And again, this gives you earlier notice of who intends to travel. So the Strength in Unity, we are, for all intents and purposes, an extension of your national entities and so on, because as we look to increase facilitation, this cannot be at the expense of security, and certainly the more that we collaborate, it makes it a lot much easier. My minder, Ms. Davis, told me not to talk long because I understand you have finance matters to discuss after this meeting, sir. So with that, thank you very much, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. You actually had our attention all along because it looks like this is the first of many more MOUs to come. But the good Deputy Premier next to me has been a champion for certain matters as it relates to immigration. So I know he heard one word there, free. So the day is not going to end for us immigration because Honorable Reimer will continue to champion his cause. But we wait him, Honorable Reimer, we come in. Mr. Jones, when you go back, please convey our appreciation to members of your staff, in particular Lisa, Tanya, and Rufus for their assistance, and for being so responsive in facilitating your trip to the Virgin Islands. Now that the remarks are out of the way, we have arrived at the purpose for which we have gathered here, the signing of the MOU. I know we are required to sign in duplicate, but given the significance of this MOU, we prepared a few extra copies to make sure hurricane doesn't go with them or anything doesn't go with them. So, Ms. Dwinelle Davis, Assistant Secretary for External Affairs, is now going to facilitate. Mr. Jones will sign first, and then we pass to the Premier. All right, so all the witnesses in the house, a round of applause for us for this significant milestone. Thank you very much. This brings us to the end of this morning's ceremony. I turn you over to our capable photographer, Mr. Roniel, to organize the photo session.